Hello and welcome to MotoGP Mac. We have a new guest on there, CB. You can see him in the middle. He looks a little different than both of us, so I don't know if you can differentiate. He's a proud owner of what bikes you got?
I have a Yamaha FC07. That's
Okay.
my starter bike, and then just got the R1S. So my first leader bike. So yep.
Oh, congratulations. You're not a virgin
Thank you.
anymore. Yeah,
No,
you
not
always had that first one.
anymore.
Huh?
Right. Yeah, I love it. I love it. So
Very good, very good. And welcome to the show.
thank you.
It's always great to have someone else on, another third opinion, Jake, isn't that right?
Yeah, that's right. Us two ugly old bastards.
Let's speak for yourself. Ugly and old. Anyway, look, it's been a bit of a crazy week, I suppose, with what's gone on. So we won't hide the fact of, we are definitely fully in silly season. Everyone and their dog is now talking about everything. So, like, particularly that Grassini Ducati seat. Now, I did say that, and I always said that the Pramac seat was going to be a linchpin, but I think this one could be a linchpin as well, because I've heard about 5, maybe 6 bums that need to be on that seat. Digi Antonio, Morbidelli, possibly Zarco, maybe
The bikes don't have to look like a bus.
Mir. So look, everyone that's needs a seat, I've heard, is maybe going to be on that, and I think it's kind of fun. Like, that was typical silly season, but I suppose what's very clear is that there's a lot of very unhappy riders in Honda, and it reminds me of what a rat does when the ship is sinking. Like, do you know what I mean? It jumps, and
they're all leaving.
They're all leaving. Like this majorly started off, I suppose, with the first major one. Obviously, look, is Mark. There is a heavy tie-up with KTM there. I believe that the word on the street is that the deal is done, even though KTM have come out and said, we don't like to buy the winners in, we want to grow them. But let's be very real and fair. Like, if Marc Marquez came up to any team or expressed interest in any team, you would have to be an absolute retard to say, not even entertain the idea of having Mark within the team. But I think Stefan Pryor said something that was very, very interesting, actually, and it's probably a video for next week that I'll be looking at doing. But he said, Marc Marquez is not the way or whatever that we would normally go, but he's like, he's not. His riding style does not suit the aerodynamics of the bike, the new aero of the bike. And I thought that was a very, very maybe factual comment. Do you know what I mean? That, like, he is so used to riding the bike the old school way of riding a bike, that when the aero is kicking in, he can't get it to do what he wants to do. Do you know? So I was like,
I don't know.
It's an interesting. Like, he's going anyway. Look, I'll have a look at it, because I thought it was a really, really interesting comment. But yeah, I think crazy to think about the third team then for KTM.
Yeah, KTM has the money too. They're right behind for budget size. It's Honda, Yamaha, then KTM, then Ducati, right? For how much money they have. So it's not like Ducati can come in and block them and could outspend them. They don't have the money to do so. You know what I'm saying?
I get you.
He's not going to want to go to Yamaha or Honda, but okay, maybe he goes to Ducati, but Ducati can't afford to outspend KTM. They sell twice as many bikes as Ducati does.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. What do you think, CB?
I don't think Ducati, though. I don't think Marquez will go to Ducati. But I could be wrong, maybe because of Honda, Ducati, and whatnot, the rivalry. But KTM, I think, will be a good fit. And I'm excited. This next season is gonna be it's
Oh,
gonna
it's
be
gonna rock and roll.
wild. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I think the next 12 races is going to be wild. Do you know what I mean? Because like it's really going to. There's going to be some people very upset with what goes on, and I mean riders. Do you know what I mean? Some are going to, who are in a nice, comfortable seat right now, are going to get their asses kicked out. Do you know what I mean? In my view, and like I think, like the mobility group that own peer mobility group who own KTM, there's no shortage of money there, right? We will be fair. The group that own Aprilia, there's no fucking shortage of money there either. Like Aprilia are owned by a different group that just feeds people money, right?
It's actually a Chinese group.
Yeah, and there is no shortage of money there. With Ducati, I think look, there's still an awful lot of money that comes off of Audi. Do you know what I mean? And technology more so than money. I think that's king. So look, again, I think Marquez is a global superstar, right? So if they have to pay Marquez 20 million a year, just say, for instance, right? They'll find that. Any team will find it, right? And the reason I say that they'll find it, I always remember, was it David Beckham, a soccer player over here? He switched to AC Milan or fucking one of these, right? And the reporter turned around and said that the jersey sales for David Beckham, 2 weeks after his unveiling, they had already paid for David Beckham. And I think it'll be the same with bikes. Like if you sign Marquez, put a number 93 on a fucking anything, do you know what I mean? It could be a fucking bicycle, do you know what I mean?
You think it'll pull that many sales?
It'll just sales across Europe, do you know what I mean? So, and especially the first 2 years of it, they'll become collector items then very quickly. You know what I mean? And like there's a lot of money, people will pay a lot of money to get a Marc Marquez special fucking Ducati or fucking
Well, in the Euros, because the Euro bikes sales are going up. They're in record sales. Where the Japanese they're going down the tubes for as far as sales every year.
The best selling
bikes are not the Japanese ones.
The best selling bike in Britain last year was a Honda CBX 125.
Yeah, well, I'm saying in sport bikes. We're not going to go. Yeah,
I know. Yeah.
Right. The bread and butter of Honda and Yamaha are little itty bitty bikes.
Yeah. But it was like I was laughing as well. But look, it was like I think it was Honda. I can't remember. It was a little 125. It wasn't a scooter. It was a motorbike. Do you know
right. Right. You're right. That just distinguished. The Europeans are selling record sport bikes, and the Japanese are going down to tubes, and they're big sport bikes.
But look, I actually had a look into this because like I look in the UK, right, which would be a big biking nation. Do you know what I mean? And UK and Ireland, and an Irish dealer, and I was told 6 weeks to get a GSXR 1000, brand new. I can get one.
By the way, they brought that back for some reason. They had that in the United States. It was a dead deal. They weren't even going to sell it.
Yeah.
And they brought it back for some
6 weeks. I
don't understand
and
that.
I could get one, but anyway, I think.
What's the number one selling bike in Europe for a sport bike?
I don't know. I'll have to test that. But I was looking around at bikes just to get it. I think
the Aprilia Toronto 660. Believe it or not, that twin.
I don't know about that now because look, I know there's an awful and this is where I'll go on this. There is a huge amount of racing classes for the 660s and the V twins and all of this, and they're not purchased as race bikes; they're purchased as street bikes and so on. So like you could have a class there where there'd be 90 bikes. Do you know what I mean? So while I would agree with you, I'll take that with a pinch of salt because of they're used for racing categories in Europe.
Yeah, I would think that would help it, but it wouldn't put it as a mainstay.
Jesus, it would. Oh, fucking hell. Like in Britain there alone, I'd say there must be about 200 of those race bikes. Do you know what I mean? That's a lot. Do you know what I mean? To be taking off the road, and super twins are all around Europe. Do you know what I mean? So, Now, saying that, they're not the fastest Super Twin either. You know what I mean?
CB in Europe, the bikes, everybody has like 10 times as many people on bikes as they do here. You know, where you go out and you look and you find a bike, you know what I mean? Or you find a group of guys like I did this morning. There's always somebody go. If you go out the road, you're going to find somebody on a bike. It's not like us. Okay. We have no one. We are not the land of the brave.
Oh, the poor Americans have no one to ride with.
They don't. I'm telling you.
It's sad.
Like, oh my God, it's scary. Oh my God, I'm going to crash. You know, grow a pair. You know what I mean?
Right.
Anyway, but the whole situation surrounding KTM and Marquez, and it's really weird, I suppose. Now, the other thing I do want to say, it has been confirmed Augusto Fernandez had his contract extended for KTM MotoGP. Boom. Total jet.
He loves him.
I do. Look, I think he's a great little rider. I think, I think he's not doing a bad thing, and I think he will at least level Pol Espargaro on average when he comes back.
Yeah.
But anyway, so KTM, right? Your man Stefan Prayer, or whatever his fucking name is, who was head of Prayer Mobility Group, who owned KTM. He did come out and he made a few statements and all of this, and like he especially talked about Pol and said if Pol is thereabouts or whatever, we have a contract for him. And he's like, yes, we have 5 riders that are now contracted, right? We will find spaces for them no matter what. So that kind of brought me to believe there's either going to be one of two things happening. He's going to get special dispensation to run Acosta on a third bike on either a KTM or a Gas. Right? Or they're in negotiation with LCR. Now, that was another, and we'll come back to that in a minute. I still believe they're pressuring Dorna big time to give them the 2 spots from Suzuki. And here's why I think it could work. Dorna have explicitly said that those 2 spots or seats are left for a manufacturer to come in. And realistically, the only manufacturers that would be capable of coming in would be BMW, Kawasaki, Suzuki. Right? How realistic is it that they will come in? I don't think it's on the cards for any number of years. Secondly, there is the regulation change for 2027, right? No manufacturer is going to build a bike towards the current regulations.
Yeah.
They're just not for 3 years, right? So, like,
by
they're
the
not
time
ready
you
this
start,
year.
it ends up, it stops. By the time 27 turns around, it's all different.
Yeah. So they're turned around. So my view of this is like, okay, so for 2024, so they don't have a manufacturer now. So 2024 realistically is a free seat year. 2025, no one is going to come in and develop a bike for 2 years and everything changed the following 2 years. Following in 2 years' time. So their argument realistically is to say to Dorna, well, look, we will take a 3-year contract. You're not going to have anyone realistically in the next 3 years. So give us the seat for 3 years. After 3 years, we'll relinquish the seat if a manufacturer comes in. Because realistically, the only deal that they're going to be doing is a branding exercise of a KTM or a rebranding exercise.
Yeah.
So for me, when I look at it, I also kind of think, it could work. Now, I just don't think Dorna wants to lose face in saying, oh, well, look, we'll give it. So what I actually think is going to happen is that Dorna will crack and they'll give them a 1-year deal. Because realistically, if Mark, for instance, just say Mark, and I think a lot of this hinges around Mark more so than anything. If Mark was to leave Honda, and Mark was to turn around and say, I've had a fuck enough, I'm not riding this, right? And then there's no home for Mark on the grid. Dorna are never going to allow that to happen. They're just not going to, right? So that's what I think could be the how would I say it? It's like they have their arm behind their back. Do you know what I mean? For Dorna.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And they're about to go into a headlock, like realistically, because I don't doubt there's a tie up there with Mark Marquez and KTM. I think it's the most logical option. Saying that, Bradle did come out.
Though they want to tie him in realistic terms? Or you think they want to tie him in for more than a year? Because, like you say, where's BMW going to come in the next 2 years? When's Kawasaki Suzuki? It's kind of a dead deal. Why not run him a couple of years and tie him in?
Who, tie Mark in?
Yeah.
But no, you see, you're getting stuck in the thing that he's contracted to a team. He'll be contracted to KTM for a couple of years. But what KTM have the problem right now is they have more bums than seats.
Right.
So like they can tell, just say for instance, in 2 years' time, fuck off Miller, fuck off Pole. Do you know what I mean? And then they go back down to 2 teams. So he's on a KTM contract, not a specific team contract. Do you know what I mean? So they wrap him up for as long as they can, but where they put him is up to them to decide. A little bit like the current Ducati contracts, you know. So look, I would 100% think they would tie him in, but I don't think they would be very worried about where he's riding as long as they have a place for him. Because right now, it would be extremely damaging PR for KTM to remove Binder and Miller. It would be really bad.
It is. It's a tough call, but would they do that for the sake of Marquez? That's a like you said, that's a big asset. If I had to choose, I'd pick Marquez over Miller if a push came to shove. For marketing.
I think you sell more KTMs in Australia with Miller.
Mm-hmm.
Australia is
KTM and Marquez.
Yeah, KTM in Australia is massive, like it's massive, and India. They sold 1 million.
Yes.
1 million bikes.
You forget about these southern countries like India and Saigon or all that Vietnam.
Yeah,
where the hell they are.
I still think though it'll be a PR exercise that they wouldn't recover from. Do you know what I mean? I think it would like they've already come out and publicly stated their confidence in all of their riders and all of this, and then to dump them, it would just be a fucking, my view, an absolute PR nightmare for the brand.
KTM is supposed to be the whiz kids of the power sports industry. If you look at Wall Street Journal in business circles, they're the up and coming force.
Yeah. Now, with Rins, then I suppose Rins talking about leaving and going to Yamaha, Mir talking about leaving to Ducati, which Ducati say they haven't had any conversation with Rins.
Yeah, they're like, who?
But of course, look, like I always play down these conversations. So like if I remember doing this last year's silly season, I did a video about. Of course, they deny that they have any talk with anyone. Do you know what I mean? They can't. Do you know what I mean? Why would you let any other team know your strategy, who you're talking to, even though it's the worst kept secret anyway in the paddock? Do you know what I mean? Like realistically, when Miller was going to KTM, there was a lot of talk about it. Rins was going to Ducati. There was a lot of talk about it. There was a lot of action about it. Even though that they denied it, then there was fucking pictures of them meeting in small little corners, having the chats, right? But so look, it's completely natural that these things would be talked down. Now, we all know then as well that KTM, as I mentioned, are desperate to find a bike 5 and bike 6 on the grid, and it came out during the week that they had approached Luca Cecchinello to see where he was, right? And Cecchinello turned around and said, that he has a contract with Honda till the end of 2024, and he says that he's going to honor it and whatever, which is fine. He then came out and said, "I'm a Honda man," which sounded very much so like someone from Japan got onto him and gave him a kick in the hole and said, "Don't you be talking," or whatever. But he also told us the truth in what happened, and like this is the normal way that negotiations that would work, is that someone would contact you, someone would say, "Look." What he said was it was a friendly conversation where they asked about LCR's position going forward. Do you know what I mean? Never specifically said 2024, but when these conversations happen, it's quite quick. And they said that all they said is that we want to start talking about working together. Do you know what I mean? That could have been for 2024 and might not be for 2024, but so he didn't deny that there was a conversation, and they wanted to start talking together from Silverstone. And he said in this thing then, like, I haven't heard anything from them since. Well, of course you haven't. It was 10 days ago. They asked you, could we start talking at Silverstone? I'm sure Luca Cecchinello said yes, that they would have so. And like any team would go and listen to a proposal, right? It's not throw it straight out the window, especially satellite teams. And it kind of brought me to a kind of a point then when I was hearing it, because I was like, okay, Mir wants to fuck off to Ducati, Rins wants to fuck off to Yamaha, Marquez wants to fuck off to KTM, so it just leaves Taka left, who they don't value, right?
All alone in the garage.
And it just
nobody loves me.
Exactly, and I was just like, how much of it? Like, forget about the engineering, right? How much of a clusterfuck are Honda in right now?
Oh, Jesus, yeah.
Like, all their main riders want out, right? So the one that they didn't really believe in, Taka, like all last year we heard Agura was going to replace Taka until Agura fucked up in Sepang badly, in my view. Do you know what I mean? He showed that he wasn't ready. This year he's not showing it either, right? But when I look at it, Honda might actually get the wish that I prescribed for them, that they might just have ordinary riders next year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
well, they earned this. They relied on riders to get their ass out of a sling for so many years, right? They had these alien riders and don't touch the bike, and the bike's lacking, or it's uncompetitive. And then when the good rider leaves, they're stuck with an uncompetitive bike and going, "Why isn't it winning?" Well, no shit, they had to start from scratch, make sure the bike's good instead of just saying ride it, make it work. That's what Marquez did his whole career, make it work.
He did, yeah. Look, it's a serious problem that they have. But I think the problem is bigger than like the problem for Honda is bigger than just an engineering problem. That's my view on it, right? If you look at Yamaha's problem, it's not as big as Honda's, but it is as big as Honda's. But Honda's, in my view, is that the organization that is taking care of it is too big, right? There's too many chefs in the kitchen, right? So what happens then is that there's no clear plan to build a bike. They build a bike, chassis, engine, aero, they're all separate entities, right? Whereas nowadays we know that it's a whole complete thing. So like before anything is even cast for the engine or the frame or whatever, right? There's a design done, and it said, right, we want the bike to go 243 kilometers an hour at the end of the straight in Mugello. Okay. So what horsepower do we need to push this aero down there? Literally, like on a design chart. And I'm not sure that type of thinking is in Japan to instead of having a separate department, it is all into one fluid design. And I don't think there's the corporate governance then around it for HRC to be putting those into place, because that's the very, what I would call it, agile method of working, which the Japanese are not normally known for. You know, they have, and I'll always be fair with Honda, they have come up with some brilliant ideas mechanically on bikes. Like that seamless shift gearbox, probably one of the best inventions I've ever seen on a bike. Now,
They copied that.
But everyone copies everything. Like
I mean, but they're not good at coming up with stuff original.
Innovation. Yeah, but they were the ones that got it out there first, Jake, in a MotoGP paddock.
Yeah, but they copied it. That's what I'm saying. They're not good at innovation.
But that's like, I don't think that's a right statement saying they copied it, right? Because everyone copies everything, right? They put their twist on it, and they did R&D. They got it out there first. To be fair to them.
Yeah, a German firm made that, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was a German firm, but they still own the IP of it. It is their design, regardless of who built it. Do you know what I mean? So they got it out there. They got it racing first. You know, I think that for me, that's probably one of the last innovations that they did come out with. Fair. But like, I will give them the credit on it that it is still probably one of the best ones. Do you know what I mean? Because I remember when it came out, 90% of the paddock were like, holy fuck, how do you do that? Do you know what I mean? They couldn't understand the gearbox. And I remember for LCR or whatever, it was only factory Honda mechanics who were allowed work on it. The LCR boys were not allowed work on it at all.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? So it was like, it was contained, which is right, Joe. But again, in my view, is that they just need to figure out a way to work, and I think they're going to need to start doing what happens across all levels of motorsport, is that they need to start pinching the right engineers from other successful teams and start bringing that information in. The only problem with that is those engineers are mainly European, and they're not going to want to move to Japan.
Yeah.
So what Honda and Yamaha have to do is they start to have to look at the transition between bringing their engineers from Japan over. I don't personally see the problem with it, because if you look at Honda HRC Formula One, same company, same people, they have a base in Banbury, close to where or close, I think close, somewhere in the UK anyway, and it's close to Milton Keynes, to where Red Bull were. So that facility for those things, research, design, etc. Some of the components in the engine maybe still built in Japan and shipped over. That's fine, but there is definitely a major sync up between the Formula One team and the engine department in the UK. Does that make sense? So that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen in for MotoGP, and I think that's where the major. And I think nothing is going to change for either Honda or Yamaha until they start to bring those people into those positions, and then start to build the bike as, yes, complete separate elements, but an overall one master project. Not build the engine, build the chassis. Oh, it's time to design the fairings. Well, sure, we'll put a fucking wing here, or we'll put a fucking wing there, or whatever, right?
Yeah, but Yamaha's been stronger than Honda over the years. If you look at it as a general in general, it's just that they happen to go in the wrong, or went in the wrong direction, or stayed in the wrong direction with that inline four this time. You know?
Yeah. No, look,
he's tough. He's tough on Yamaha because he's a Yamaha fan. He's tough on him.
I mean, you got to be honest. I mean, I like Yamaha and I like what they're doing, but they had some good riders, Fabio, Rossi, but they weren't ahead. They left the bike how it is because it was easy to ride, and now they're behind. So they got to play catch up with the aero and everything else. So, and then the engine is, everyone's going to V4. So what are you going to do now? Are you going to go to V4 or try to still get more out of an inline four? So I don't know what they're going to do. So.
And the predicament that they're in, right? And I was sitting there and I was thinking about this the other day. So if Yamaha switched to a V4, realistically, they're a brand new team. That's the size of the change from an inline four to a V4.
Oh, yeah.
So realistically, if you were to look at it, it's like a brand new team coming in because they'll have zero relevant data. No data at all, because the V4 engine, how it reacts in the frame, at the suspension, tires, whatever.
Yeah.
So that's, and I suppose for people that I don't say likely that they need a V4. It is a massive cost exercise, is one bit, but that's dwarfed by the loss of data that they would have. And when you look at it, and this was spoken recently about with Stefan Bradl about the new Honda when they moved from the front bias to the rear bias bike, that they couldn't catch up because they had no data, relevant data for the bike. Whereas when they tweaked the bikes, they could kind of go back to say last year's settings,
right?
And that was okay. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't perfect, but it was better than what they had. Do you know what I mean?
But that was just Honda's weak engineering because
no. It's a factual thing, right? It's not about weak engineering, and we'll park that into the corner, right? If you have a baseline bike that you've changed completely, and they went from front bias to rear bias bike,
right?
You can't change the settings to go back to a front bias.
Oh no, right? You cannot. No, it's apples and oranges, right?
Yeah, but that's exactly my point. That's why Honda were getting so last, is because the engineering is an issue, but they have no reference to any other bikes of what they're doing. So everything that they're doing is exploratory. They're trying to figure it out. They're trying to does this work better than this, and this work better than this? No. But what they're also, do you know what I mean? So when you look at Yamaha, if they change to the V4 engine, realistically, it might, in the way I would look at it, is that this is a brand new team coming in because they will have zero data. They might have MotoGP experience, but zero data.
Yeah.
But it may work. I think that may work because with the change in the regulations, if you bring that in at the right time, that may work. They may have a slight advantage because everyone is maybe at square zero, square one or whatnot. So maybe.
I've said this from day dot that I believe that Mermoni is in there to put a band-aid on the inline four, and I reckon that he is building the V4 for the regulation change. Now, he is not a fucking idiot either, right? He has built Ferrari Formula One engines. He got Aprilia to change the angle of the V in their V4. So he has a working understanding of a MotoGP engine, a successful MotoGP engine, I will add, with the Aprilia engine, right? Aprilia is not slow by any way, shape, or form. No. So for me, when I'm looking at it, I'm not worried about the actual engine building, compiling, and whatever. It's just the data then of running it. Realistically, they're probably going to take 2 years to bed that engine, chassis, aero combination in together. But you see it with Yamaha, and look, they've openly admitted is that they cannot run the top speed of the engine. They're getting more horsepower out of that engine. The top speed of that engine with last year's aero on it is faster. And it's clear for everyone to see, right? But with more power, the bike won't turn. Do you know what I mean? So they're now caught in a vicious circle of, okay, we cannot now go back to last year's data. So they're getting further and further away as they add more and more horsepower into that engine from where they were. Is it something that Yamaha can fix? Yeah, I would be more confident that Yamaha would fix an engineering problem of chassis development. Yeah. But Yamaha have also come out and said they know absolutely sweet fuck all about aerodynamics. And they've said it, a poor understanding of, they said it in much more conservative and I think
very more peacefully, yeah.
But realistically, they don't understand the aerodynamics, right? So they need to tie up with someone fast, and they need to tie up with someone who understands the CFD design, understands and has access to wind tunnels, all of this stuff. So personally, myself,
the inline 4, when they're having the horsepower, runs out of reliability. Because remember, Suzuki was out of engines the last time. If they didn't have that one engine, they would have been sunk.
Oh well, look, they took the penalty for the end. No, they would have taken a penalty and they wouldn't have been there, But saying that, look, I think at the end of the day, I would be more confident that Yamaha will solve an engineering problem faster than thing. But
yes,
just to give people kind of like the gravity and the scope that if Yamaha were to change to a V4 engine, which I still believe they will at the thing, it's going to be a massive data loss to them, and I think that's what scares them the most, more so than anything else, is that there literally will be a new team coming in.
Well, they ran them for 20 years, but they were 2-strokes.
Yeah, and completely different horsepower.
Yeah, I know. Where are they running? I think they got
much better sounding and smelling, I will say, but and if you haven't ever experienced it in your life, lock yourself in the shed and start your 2-stroke bike and have your version of 420 day when you open up the door.
Yeah, that's your wife telling you to do that. She wants to bump them off.
Yeah. Well, look, my only fear in life, my man, is that if I do die, she'll sell the bikes for what I told her I paid for them.
Yeah, you can have that.
That's my only fear. It's my only fear in life. Some dirty bastard will get my bikes for as cheap as chips.
All right.
Anyway, I think it's just going to be interesting with the whole KTM Marquez debacle. KTM are fairly confident. There's something there definitely that they will get the seats for next year.
I see he's favored. Marquez would be. I'd favor him for the title if he gets on a KTM next year.
I think so. Yeah, I think he'd suit it. Do you know what I mean? But then, yeah, look, you never really know. Do you know what I mean? Like these bikes, we all thought Maverick was going to fucking rocket on the Aprilia too. You
never knew with Maverick he was going to be yeah, but even if you thought he was a rocket, you didn't know if he was going to be a rocket one day or 2 days, or then be a snail.
But he's small and light.
Mm-hmm. But I heard also that Marquez possibly to Gresini.
So that is a big pipe dream as well. And like we were talking about this last year, like Marquez and Ducati will never go away because of the Alex pull, right? Like you could see it in November's test in Valencia. One Marquez brother went home fucking tweeting with delight, and the other went home pretty fucking miserable, right? And we don't need to explain who, right?
Who was miserable?
Who was miserable, right? But again,
we always said Alex was going to come home and the doors would be locked. Come on, let me in.
Yeah. So like, I don't think that will ever go away. Like Alex has been treated. And Alex has said he's been treated by Ducati really, really well. Do you know what I mean? That what's his name? Gigi Dell'Inea even came in and introduced himself and welcomed them to the family and all of this. And he's felt it. But saying that, Alex hasn't really got on well with the Ducati this year. When you look at his crashes, like he's almost up there with Mark, right? Now, he is having a better year, do you know what I mean? He is showing that he is a little bit more consistent than he was on the LCR for definite. But, right. The tie-up between the two brothers, for sure, I'm sure that Red Bull or even Estrella Galizia, the beer sponsor who sponsored the Marquez brothers all the way up through their career, would be happily, interested in a Marquez brothers team. But again, look, there's that bike is that DG Antonio still rides. Let's just say that for now. Do you know what I mean? It's like the biggest prostitute bike ever, because so many fellas are supposed to be riding it like for next year. Do you know what I mean? There's like five or six bums that are supposed to be on that bike.
Maybe they're going to take turns.
Yeah, maybe. You do one race, I do one race. But look, I don't think the Marquez Ducati factor will never really go away until he signs somewhere.
Yeah.
Because of Alex. Like, can you imagine sitting there, you're fucking sweating bullets trying to get a bike to turn that's fucking showing you left, right, and center, and your brother says, "Yeah, well, look, I'm crashing because I make mistakes. That's fine." Do you know what I mean? That's different to it's just fucking crashing, right? Do you know what I mean? Like Alex, 9 times out of 10 makes a mistake and crashes, right?
Right.
Mark, the fucking thing decides it wants to crash. Do you know what I mean? It's like
Mike looks up and goes, "You're going off."
yeah, get off. You know what I mean?
It's like that horse. It's like a horse or something that's mad at you. It's just like, get up. It's up. That's time is done. So.
Exactly, and I think it's a very different mindset. And like Marquez on the Ducati, even Stefan Bradl said recently, you know, that he would probably beat everyone. Do you know what I mean? Definitely that he would beat Marini, his brother, Bezzecchi, etc. But I still don't know. I don't know. Does Mark want to be in the same group as Pecco? Do you know what I mean? May not want to be. If I was putting my money on where I believe Mark should go, it's Aprilia. I think that's the firm for him. That's just my.
Yeah.
I think because they're the ones that really need a superstar.
Yes, the bike's there. The bike's there.
The bike is there.
They need a soup. They need an alien on that bike.
They do, yeah. They do. That's just my view of it, though.
You know, it's a very strong. The engineering and the Aprilia is exceptionally strong for such a small team. Small money in comparison to everybody else. Yeah.
Well, the latest thing that I heard was that the Aprilia factory team is actually supporting the RNF team. Apparently, RNF are in fairly big financial trouble, and it's basically the other team or the factory team is actually supporting them.
Oh, okay. Well, didn't they think that was coming from the get-go?
Yeah. So
they had that. They said they had a lousy business plan going on.
Yeah. So there is a possible other 2 seats for KTM.
There you go.
Yeah,
I think Marquez. I think another factor is that I think he wants a factory seat. So, you know, Grassini, no, it had to be KTM or Aprilia, but it had to be. I think he would want a factory seat though.
Yeah, and I think that's why the Husqvarna stuff does make an awful lot of sense. Where that it would be a factory, Husqvarna say factory. Do you know what I mean? Now saying that, I if there's nothing left, a factory bike in a satellite team would be acceptable. I would think to him as well.
Yeah,
but the bike has to be factory spec. I can't see.
Well, I think everything he does is going to, even if it's it looks like even on a satellite team, he's going to have a factory spec bike. Yeah. He's going. They're going to roll out the red carpet for him in any case.
Oh yeah, like he would definitely get the factory spec bike. I would think regardless of what team he goes into, and I think he would have extra engineers from like a normal satellite thing. He would definitely have factory engineers assigned to him rather than just
that support.
Yep. Yeah, the one or two. Now saying that, I think. Yeah, look, every team on the grid is going to entertain Marc Marquez. Even fucking Yamaha would entertain him. Do you know what I mean?
But if he goes to KTM, I would think they put him on the badge. I think they throw under him is MV Augusta, because with all the history they had in Grand Prix for all them years with Agostini and all.
Yeah, maybe.
I think that would just sell the sizzle.
But it's still a KTM.
Yeah, it's still KTM. I know that. We all know it's all just, cakes and circuses, but it would just look neat, You could put the red and silver paint on it and make it look all funky, all cool.
But look, I think let's just put it, class it in the place of wherever Marquez goes, it's going to be a giant marketing exercise.
Oh yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like that analogy I used about Beckham when he think like they sold more jerseys in those 2 weeks with his name on the back of it than his transfer fee cost.
Mhm.
You know, so it's just so like they hadn't paid for it. So, and that's the dangerous thing. And I think Marquez is one of those people that whatever team he would go to, he
Right.
will sell bikes. From sport bikes to scooters, like
Yeah.
you know what I mean. It doesn't make a difference, and KTM have a massive, you know, not just motorbikes that they sell, you know, with their power sports pedigree, let's just call it. I think it would make sense that they would pay for them, but look, I could be wrong in it. Where the weekend change as well. It'll be interesting to see how this goes. So basically, the riders were complaining about the Friday practice, that from practice session 1 and 2 on the Friday. So
Okay.
now it's
Yeah.
the second practice is the only timed session. So it's only one session to secure your place into Q2, and that's on a Friday afternoon. No long session. I'm like, why don't you just cut it down to 15 or 45 minutes and do a 15-minute shootout to get into qualifying too? Do you know what I mean? Make it a bit fucking exciting, because like over the course of an hour, it's not really that exciting. Do you know what I mean? It's like it all comes out the last 2 minutes anyway. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but look, riders seem to be happy with it. I suppose if they're happy, whatever.
I guess they just don't want to come out and just, like you say, this track's green and you got to just jump on it and go balls to the wall. That kind of.
Yeah, but I was just thinking then, like, if it's pissing rain in session 2,
Yeah.
crash both bikes, you're fucked.
Yeah.
Right.
You know?
I don't know about that. That's a little. I don't know. I think that's going to get changed back, because, like you said, if anything, you're going to miss out. You know, in the morning on Friday, if the conditions change. You know.
Yeah, and it's going to be a lot more intense session as well. You know what I mean? And you're going to be riding around trying to set a base, and then go for it and you crash fucking twice. Then you know what I mean? 15 minutes left, you're gone. Like, you know. And look, I get it. Look, it's good that they changed it for the riders, but yeah, I don't know. I think like there was no one saying that you had to push in session 1, right? But like after 45 minutes on the track, there should be enough rubber down there to at least have a go. Do you know what I mean? That's my view. Do you know what I mean? Like it's one or two laps. You know, if you do a good enough session, or if you do a good enough lap in the second one anyway, you'll be there. So for me, it makes no major difference.
Yeah, I just figure I'll let the riders figure that out. They know better than we do, since their asses on the bike.
You know, their asses on the fucking ground too.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
What was the other thing? So then, the other thing I wanted to go on about is that, Honda or Yamaha, I thought was pretty good for Yamaha the other day, you know, when they came out and they were discussing that they went the wrong direction. I think it's a pretty big thing in my view, because I'm obviously a Yamaha fan, right? But for me, it's a pretty big thing that they're coming out and they're open and admitting this is their problem. Do you know what I mean? They know what the problem is. They know who's responsible for it as well, and they're not running away from it, you know. But I definitely think it'll be a long road back for Yamaha to get it back to where they have. Now Silverstone coming up for Yamaha, it's going to be an interesting one, because there's not very many hard acceleration points there. I think there's maybe 2 where you're coming out of kind of like no, because So yeah, I don't think there's a lot of slow corners where they're hard accelerating. They're kind of where the slow corners would be. There would be another corner very shortly after, which would be opening out. So all the bikes would be on the side of the tire anyway when they're accelerating. You know, so I would actually expect Fabio to go quite well. You
I
know,
was gonna say that should be good for Fabio, right? I hope Fabio stays. I don't want to see Yamaha get left with nothing.
Right.
You know what I'm
They
saying?
definitely have to start from scratch then.
Yeah. I mean, without Fabio, they got shit for Shinola.
Yeah, well, Fabio.
I think they're going to be in trouble. I think if they would have left the bike alone, it would be okay because Fabio did well, and I'm stuck on the 2021 season, but he did really well. He was way ahead of the pack, but since that bike it's not turning well, I think they're going to be in trouble.
I think he lost an awful lot of confidence.
Yep.
The 2 races before the Netherlands last year. And if you look at it, that like the Netherlands, like he never recovered from the summer break last year.
Mm-hmm.
Now you called it last year. He called 90 points when everybody was 90 points down. Mac goes, "Oh, I think Pecco's going to win." I was like, "You're out of your freaking mind." What are you sick? Yeah. I said, Fabio's going to take this thing all day long. Of course, he busted my shoes when they pulled it. Yeah.
So another thing I was thinking of, do you think having a good second rider can impact the championship? Because in 2021, he had Maverick, who was right on him, maybe 2 positions behind, but he kind of held up the pack. So last year, Morbidelli is way behind. So there's no one to really hold it up. Marquez is out pretty much. So just looking at it, it seems like it kind of has an effect when you have that second rider that's kind of covering your ass a little bit.
Rolling roadblock. Yeah.
But you look at the Ducatis last year. There was 8 of them on the grid, right? And I'll fight anyone on this, right? Like you can go on and say it's a Ducati Cup and all of this and whatever, right? We know the circumstances why Ducati were there because they were asked. All manufacturers were asked to supply more bikes. Ducati stood up. If Ducati didn't supply those 2 teams, we'd have 4 less bikes on the grid. No one wants that.
They got paid for it. They had to pay them to do it. They don't really want neat bikes. They said it.
But right. So the fact of the matter is, people are going on about Ducati and this and that and the other. At the end of the day, there was only one world champion last year on a Ducati, and that was Pecco. And he was the fastest Ducati rider and fastest rider of everyone on the grid. Was Pecco helped a little bit to the championship? Yes, his teammates got in the fucking way of others, right? And for me, how you measure how successful a bike or a team is the second rider.
Yep.
Like we were very much so spoiled in, say, 2005 to 2013 or 14 because a lot of teams had 2 fucking aliens on it. Like you had Stoner and Pedrosa, you had Rossi and Lorenzo, Joe. Like all of these kind of combinations and like when you look at it, the second rider is the measure of the team. And like I got in trouble last year when I said that Yamaha, or the year before when I said that Yamaha didn't win the world championship. Fabio did.
Fabio won it. Yes, he did.
Right. And my going on that is that the reason I said that is because Morbidelli was nowhere near him.
Right.
Rossi was nowhere near.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? So he was the one that made the difference on that bike.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And if he wasn't there, you take him out of the championship. Where were they? Were back down the field. Now the problem I believe with Morbidelli is Morbidelli and Rossi ride very, very similar, and that's what. And it was scary actually when they were next to each other on the same team, right? Because you could see the two of them, and their riding style, no matter how much they change it, was never going to be aggressive enough to do that. So that is where, in my view, Morbidelli needs to get off the fucking bike. Morbidelli is like Mir, in my view. He needs to get off of that bike. Because that bike does not suit the type of rider he is. Whereas with Rins just can't feel the front. So Rins, if you look at it, is looking around the circuit or looking around the cam or the paddock to find a bike that has a really positive feeling front end. And we all know that the most positive front end feeling from Pecco, that the bike is too stable on the front. There you go. Right. So that's what it's feeling it. So when I look at it at the measurement thing, like Marquez always made a difference. Fabio always makes a difference on the performance of the bike. Pecco always makes a difference. Pecco, for me, what I've been super impressed with is that if he is slow on a Friday, he figures it out for the Saturday. And for me, that is the true sign of a champion. He doesn't panic. He doesn't, well, he kind of throws his toys out of the pram, but that's okay. That's kind of the new norm, right? But he works through and solves the problem to come back and is somewhat competitive. Do you know what I mean? And I went through his thing last week. Like, we've done, 16 races. We've done 8 weekends, so that's 16 races. And he's only had 3 crashes. So,
right.
Compared to last year, we did 8 races. He had 4 crashes. Do you know what I mean? He finished 50% of the races. Do you know what I mean? Whereas this year, out of the 16, he's crashed 3 times. So he's starting to nail this system, and I think he is going to be dominant. But he has to be dominant because until Marquez gets off the Honda, Fabio gets off the Yamaha, Aprilia would be fucking mad if they can't either get Marquez or Quartararo. That's all they need. They have the bike.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? They have the money. Both KTM and Thing have the money for both. Do you know what I mean? Are they going to invest in winning that world championship? And that world championship to them is worth hundreds of fucking millions on bike sales. So, yeah, look, I think the answer to the question is, though, you need a fast second rider.
But what he's saying, but the second rider shows you how good the bike is. It shows you if, like when you look at Marquez, it was Marquez would win, and the second rider would be in 19th, or 18th, because the bike just sucked. And Marquez was the one riding it, or Fabio was winning the bike, and what you call it was 15th, whatever. You knew it was Fabio winning, So.
Yeah, exactly. So look, I think it'll be a good thing though. And this is what I said about the what Honda and Yamaha need to do is that they need to build the bike for an ordinary racer,
right?
And
bike good instead of the rider relying on the rider.
Yeah, and Aprilia, in my view, is the team that has the potential now for that. They have a really good bike.
Yeah,
put the fucking alien on it now, and then you're going to see that bike go to the next level. You're going to see the Aprilia, instantly gain 0.3 of a second just for having that person on it. But what they still need to look at it doing is then still have that, what we call in Ireland, ordinary Joe Soap.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? That's pootling around on his bike in 6th or 7th place. But if that Joe Soap starts going down to 12th and 13th place, there's a problem with the bike.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not what Mark or Maverick say, oh, this is what's wrong with the bike. If he's all of a sudden finishing thing and he's not able to feel the front or do this and the other, or even look at not just the one rider, but if you look at Aprilia for instance, right? I think Aleix Espargaro is kind of coming to the end of his career. I think the couple of crashes that he's had, I think the fear is starting to come in now. And it's not, fear is wrong, right?
He's beat up.
He's beat up.
That feeling that you have when you're in the gravel trap, right? And you're like, do I actually fucking need to be doing this?
Yeah.
That's what I'll call it. It's not fear, right? And I think he has that at the moment. Doesn't mean he's not fast or whatever, but he's not wanting to crash, right?
Yeah.
And if you look at it at the moment, where I would be looking at what I would class it as, I would look at Maverick and I would look at Miguel Oliveira, right? And if they were starting to slip outside the top 10, I'd be realizing consistently now, and I mean like 1 or 2 races, right? But consistently outside the top 10, I'd be like, okay, we have a problem now with the bike. Do you know what I mean? Because you will always have an edge case. So look, Raul Fernandez is an edge case. He's not getting up there. He's not delivering. That's a rider problem, not the bike problem, because there's other people on the bike that are consistently ahead of him. But where I would think of it is that, like, you would look at it like between 7th and 11th place. That's your window for your second rider. And if your second rider is not within that, or he's in a bunch of second riders, you can kind of say, okay, we're okay. Do you know what I mean? The bike is good. The Alien is, and the Alien brings the 3 or 4 tenths of a second from riding around the problem or through the problem. And that's just my view. But the second rider is the key rider of the bike performance. And also, if you have a good on a good side of an ordinary Joe Soap, he can get involved in the battles with your championship. So, for example, putting your rival in the championship is having a bad weekend and he's behind your second rider. Like, you make sure that you are extra difficult to pass. As soon as he passes you, no matter what, you run that bike up the inside of him again. Do you know what I mean? Push him wide. Fight him. Do you know what I mean? Because what you're trying to do is you're trying to delay him a little bit of time. You know, that's because you already know, I suppose, your position within the team, right?
Yeah.
Like if you look at Edwards and Rossi, are you telling me that Edwards believed he was the number 1 rider in that team?
Or go Miller and Pecco last year.
Miller, Pecco, yeah. You know what I mean? They knew their position. They knew what they had to do, and they knew exactly. And that's the unfortunate part of life. Of you know that the fella next to you is faster than you. Now that's in an awful lot of motor racing environments. Like you look at Red Bull in Formula One. Like you have Max Verstappen, and you have Checo Perez, right? Poor Checo is like fucking the orphan kid. Like, do you know what I mean? It's all about Max. Or in Mercedes, it's all about Hamilton. Ferrari, it's all about Charles Leclerc. Do you know what I mean? It's all like.
But Miller now, he's feeling his oats because he's feeling like he's well on par for number 1 at least.
I don't know though. You see,
don't you? I mean,
I love Miller. Don't get me wrong. I think Jack Miller, if I'm honest, is one of the most refreshing people in the paddock, right? Because there's no bullshit. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't think he's the fastest guy out there, that's for sure.
But you know something? He's the fella that you throw a fiver on in the bookies to have a fucking go.
Yeah, just giggles. Yeah,
exactly. Because you know when he's out there, heart is on his sleeve. He's gonna go for it. He wants to win the race. He'll fucking burn up that back tire trying to win that race. Do you know what I mean? And then he'll smile and have a laugh about it after. Do you know what I mean? So for me, he is one of those guys. But I think he has only a couple of years of use to KTM, and I think he'll slip down the importance bit personally. Once they get everything from the old Ducati that's in his mind out, they won't have any more use for him.
He did well though. He came in and on a new bike, and I was really surprised of what he was able to do. Yeah.
I think all our jaws dropped to the floor when they brought the complete KTM out in Portimao, and everyone was like, "What the fuck?" You know what I mean? Like, because they were tail end Charlies all through winter testing, right? And And this is what I loved about KTM, because they tried the aero devices, or the aero devices that they're now trying, and they didn't work. And they were trying those through testing, and they dropped them. Do you know what I mean? They were like, no, they're not working. We're not going to bring them. Do you know what I mean? But they kept working on it behind the scenes. And then when we got to Jerez, remember Danny Pedrosa's bike was completely different to Max, or to Jack and Brad's bike. That was the upgrade that came out then after that, and that brought that bike along. And I just think it's like really interesting to see that the level, when I look back at it now, the level of complexity that they were doing, and how they were able to say, okay, this doesn't work, we're going to drop it and bring it back, and now it works. Do you know what I mean? If you look at Honda, they tried every single other fucking one's devices, and they couldn't settle on anything. Do you know what I mean? Because they didn't understand the concept that they were running. Now, you look at Red Bull, or you look at KTM, they have the might of Red Bull behind them, right? Who, let's be fair, have a reduction in wind tunnel testing time this year, and have a reduction in CFD design this year, because they overspent in their budget last year, right? So they got impacted by it. So there's the resource there by Red Bull that, okay, here you go. And this is what I'm talking about, is that for all teams, so like Yamaha, Honda, so they need to get in with these teams big time to understand what the fuck is going on with the motorcycle. Do you know what I mean? Because it's no longer put it in a wind tunnel at a straight angle and see what happens. Do you know what I mean? Right. That's gone with the spokes, Jake. Do you know what I mean? It's now all angles, just sucking that bike down to the ground. Do you know what I mean?
It's like, progress. It's, things move on. You know what I mean?
It is, yeah. But it's so much more complex now than ever. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I think the next 12 races are going to be quite interesting. I think there's a lot of people going to be upset with what goes on. I think there's a lot of surprises yet to come with silly season. I hope for both Honda and Yamaha. I genuinely do hope that they sort this shit out, like, you know what I mean? Because it's not nice seeing.
Just so they don't try to hinder the European brands, or say, oh, ban this, ban that because we suck. You know what I mean? It's like, well, it's unfair. It's unfair. And it's like, no, it's not unfair. You have a budget that's 3 times higher than the Europeans. Get your ass off. Get your shit together.
But I don't think they're going to be able to ban anything that's currently existing, right?
Yeah, I don't know. The way Dorna wants the Japanese to win, you never know.
But you're wrong now, though, because the government, or there's a governance now there with IERTA and the MSMA, right? And to get through that, like even when we talked about concessions, right? Like Ducati, Aprilia, KTM, they're not fucking idiots, right? The team principals, team owners, technical directors, they're not idiots, right? They're not going to turn around to Yamaha and Honda and say, here's a free advantage. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I hope not. I just hope Dorna doesn't go, we don't care if you don't like it here. This is what you're stuck with. They can't,
though. That's the thing within the thing. If you want to change anything, it has to go through IERTA and the MSMA, who are the Manufacturers Association, right? They have to agree to it. Otherwise, no bueno. Dorna can fucking do what they like.
And how did they get out of the front ride height, even though it didn't work? You know what I
mean? Because that wasn't a regulation.
Okay.
We're talking, huh?
You're losing on that because they already had it on the track and it wasn't against regulations.
Yeah, that's exactly. So they can ban that. There's no. Wow. So if you can imagine what they're doing, there's no law against having front ride height. There was no law, right? So they made one. They can do that, right? But if you take an existing law, you now have to have everyone's agreement. So if there's no law, 5 out of the 6 teams, and this is a key point, 5 out of the 6 teams agreed to get rid of it. So therefore they had a majority. However, with changing a regulation,
I thought it had to be universal. That's what threw me.
With changing a regulation, it has to be universal.
Hmm.
So therefore, rear right height device, concessions, testing, all of this has to be done.
Yeah.
So that's the long and the short of it. So I don't think those team principals are fucking idiots. As I said, they're not going to say, "Oh, Honda, yeah, we're going to agree. Honda have 10 times more testing than we do." Do you know what I mean? No. We will agree to a compromise, maybe, or we will do this, but they will get their slice of the pie.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And like as I mentioned to you, you know, the likes of Honda and the power that Honda have over Dorna is not very uncommon at all in motorsport. And if you look at the Ferrari Formula One team, they have the same sort of power over the FAI, which is the governing body of Formula One, also commonly known as Ferrari International Assistance. Right? So, like they have a veto on any new regulations, do you know what I mean, and stuff like this. One of the only ones, because you know they're a heritage member of Formula One.
Well, you know, with Yamaha and Honda having like literally three times the budget of the Europeans, you wouldn't think they need a damn thing. You know what I'm saying? It's like having David and Goliath, and you say, you know what, Goliath needs the help. You know, you say, no, he shouldn't. He's only this.
Yeah,
you know,
but look, money doesn't always solve problems, though. You know, the problem is on the track, not in the bank balance, right? And regulations, though.
They say money can't buy love. I can buy it. I can rent it. I can put it on layaway.
You can, yeah, but you know, it never really tells you it loves you, though.
Right.
Never means it. But like you look at the likes of Honda and Yamaha. Like I will agree, what Honda and Yamaha need is track time. But the regulations are wound so tight now on track time, they're not going to get it. Do you know what I mean? So it's nearly impossible for them to develop their way out of it, even though that they have the budget and money to do it. They just don't. The regulations are not there, and this is where maybe Honda and Yamaha are pressing Dorna, right, to try and get it. But I still believe I would like, if it was me and Dorna came to me and said, look, we want to give Honda and Yamaha concessions, I'd be, yeah, sure, fine. Are we getting the same?
Yeah.
I think Honda,
I think everybody should have all the track time testing they want, but everybody gets it the same, you know? You know, and with 3 times the budget, if you have all the track time you want, if you don't catch up, then that's on you. You know,
right.
Chance to catch up. You know, you just can't give them everything. You know, you can't say, "Well, you get it and I don't." That's bullshit. You know.
Yeah, I don't think that will happen. I don't see Dorna turning around and saying, "Lads, here's a blank check. Go nuts on as much time as you want." Not in today's world and regulations and all of this fucking PR bullshit stuff that they're doing about changing the planet and reducing carbon, all this fucking stuff. They're not going to do it, right? I'll be very real in it, right? But I think I genuinely think there is going to be an increase in testing, but it's going to be level across the thing.
I don't know. When they start saying like F1, didn't they say they had to have? They're looking to make sure they have a transvestite as one of the umbrella girls.
No,
I swear to God.
No, that's completely false.
No, I was like, you got to be kidding me.
No.
How about it? We're in America. They would. That does not sound. It doesn't sound off all to us. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but look, it's completely incorrect, and I'll tell you why. Because Formula One don't use grid girls.
Oh, okay.
They use grid kids, so they actually use children. Mm-hmm. So, like we would have here on soccer matches and all of that, you have mascots.
Yeah.
So they would have grid. It's called grid kids, so they you can apply to your local track when a race is on, and you could be one of those kids that bring your drivers out and stand by their cars and whatever. So it's great. It's actually a great initiative to be
that's cool.
But no, the grid girls and the trolley dollies are long gone, unfortunately. I enjoyed looking at the Monster Energy girls quite a lot. So, yeah.
They are beautiful. Like these World Superbike, they got the hottest chicks on planet Earth.
Yeah. Anyway, listen. Look, I think that was a good chat, lads. Welcome to the channel again, CB. We definitely have to have you on again.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it is too.
Jake, you've been very well behaved. I must admit, no major shouting and roaring this week.
He wasn't a fanboy. He wasn't giving you the fanboy nut crap. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No. Look, well done. It's your first podcast is done. We'll definitely do it again for sure.
Definitely. Maybe when the season's over, we can recap.
When the season is over, we will definitely do a recap. And look, we're always happy to have people on and talk and whatever. So look, maybe we might catch you even maybe halfway between the season again, just to see where you are and what you're thinking of it. And keep that R1 wide open. Don't worry about the cops. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And I 100% dare you to say, if you do get hauled over by the cops and the cop says to you, do you know why I pulled you over? Just tell him the MotoGP Mac line. Because I let you.
Oh yeah.
Because
I allowed you. I allowed you to pull me.
Because I allowed you. Yeah.
Right.
And I'll happily pay the bail money.
We'll see. Definitely.
Radio. Well, look, we will wrap it up there, and we catch everyone next week.
Take it easy, folks.
Thank you, guys.